I am Ramona Hernandez, a professor of sociology at the City College of New York. I am also the director of the CUNY Dominican Studies Institute. And we are going to watch Cardi B's I Like It, a video where I think she reflects her Dominicanness. It is there injected all over her video. When we think of Dominican culture, the frio frio, the yun yun, which is the ice that she begins almost immediately, it appears in her video. It resonates with you.
For a few pennies, the street corner vendor shaves the ice.
This is very typical in the Caribbean, but it's also very typical of the Dominican people, the frio frio, the yun yun. These are the colors of the Dominican flag, black, white, and blue. The fact that she uses the Dominican flag. The Dominican flag was created, woven by Dominican women. And it's very central to the Dominican culture, of course. It reflects who they are. It is very central in her video. You see it a few times. Of course, the hookah is associated with Dominicans, particularly in Washington Heights. And I understand that is slowly being introduced in the Dominican Republic as well. Many other Latino groups will use it, but it's obviously today that Dominicans in Washington Heights enjoy the hookah. If you are not careful, you miss the Dominican flag hanging next to the Puerto Rican flag, injected, infused there. It's on the left side. Mira acá. The other item that we're gonna see in a minute that is also identified with the Dominican people very clear. There are several singers, dancers actually, who are wearing flowers on their hair. And that is very typical on Dominican culture, particularly associated with traditional folklore, the flower on the hair. And they will wear it like that, or they will wear it on the side, particularly to dance traditional folkloric, traditional music. This is the Colombian flag, this is the Puerto Rican flag, and the Dominican flag is right next to it. See the brothers in the back here? They are playing domino. There's nothing more clear identified with the Dominican people than playing domino. Nothing. They do it everywhere. This is a typical backyard in the Dominican Republic next to the ocean, because these are trees that are associated with the ocean. There you go with the frio frio again. Constant there. This hat, it's very typical of the Dominican men of course, in the Dominican Republic. You can even see it here also. Dominican wearing hat. Men. Mira que claro. You see it? It's even more clear, much more on your face. Clear symbolism of her ethnicity and her culture and the work she does. This is the Dominican Republic. And this woman is going to appear with the same sweatshirt several times throughout the video. But you have to be really paying attention to look for that, for those details. It's a very typical representation of, people will say, of how a Dominican woman look. The rhythm, you know, the beating, the color, the dancing, all simultaneously representing a culture that is alive, a culture that emphasizes color, rhythm, You see the vibrancy, you see the rhythm, you see the colors, you see the yellow over and over and over, telling you that sun, that Caribbean sun, that Dominican sun that is there. In the video, the background is very familiar to me. It is the backyard of a house that is near the ocean, near the beach. The trees that you have there are clearly ocean, sea, trees, and it was just a very typical backyard in that sense in the Dominican Republic. You perhaps might find this in other Caribbean countries, but it's definitely one that you will find in the Dominican Republic, no question about. The elder woman watching, looking, her presence there definitely reminds me of her grandmother. She was raised by her grandmother, who was the Dominican person in her life when the father wasn't in there. That is also very symbolic because we do have la abuela, the Dominican grandmother, has a very strong presence in the raising of the children in the Dominican Republic. And it's, that kind of symbolism that she has, it's what impresses me. And of course, reminds me that she clearly grew up in an environment where the Dominican culture was present. It's also very interesting with the lyrics of her song here, reflecting strength, it's reflecting a woman who is in control. And I, clearly associate that with Dominican culture, Dominican women. When you look at Dominican migration, for instance, is clearly dominated by women. Women are the first one to leave, and it is clearly an exodus of women. That applies to Puerto Rico, that applies to Dominicans in the U.S., and that applies to Dominican in Spain, and it goes on and on and on. So, and you see that in the lyrics. She's in control, she's on top, she is the one calling the shots. Centrality of Cardi in the video. Of course, you can always think that it's because it is a video, she's going to be central. But it's also, thinking again about the centrality of women. A high proportion of families are headed by single women. So this woman, it's everything. It's the central aspect in the home, right? The video moves really fast, but you have to keep looking constantly and pay close attention to see it, because you will see several symbols of Dominican culture that are displayed in the video clearly and with good taste. So I think that this is what makes this so beautiful and so reflected of her ethnicity and her pride of that ethnicity. Perhaps what is most interesting to me when you think of Cardi B and you think about Dominican culture is her desire, her willingness, her claiming an identity. This young woman was born and raised in the U.S. Her father is Dominican and her mother is Trinidadian, yet she speaks Spanish like a Dominican person who was born and raised in the U.S. But not only that, she speaks Spanish with a Dominican accent from the Bronx.
Tú sabes, música español. Entonces, alguna de mi familia, ellos no hablan inglés.
She gave an interview in La Mega, perhaps the most popular radio station in the Northeast. And she spoke in a program that runs in the morning, El Vacilón de la Mañana.
El Vacilón de la Mañana.
And I was...
¿Qué tiene que tener un hombre para que te conquiste?
Yo no sé, porque tú sabes, like, la gente piensa que a mí nada más me gusta el hombre con dinero.
Pleasantly surprised because it's not only speaking Spanish with a Dominican accent and a Dominican accent from the Bronx. No, it's the some of the slangs that are used, right, by the Dominican people, some of the symbolism that you have in the language that you can only use if you were trained with this lingo, right?
I listen to a lot of, tú sabes, música español. Entonces, alguna de mi familia, ellos no hablan inglés. Entonces, ellos no entienden el suceso mío que está pasando en el mundo de hip hop en inglés. Like, Yo le digo a mi abuela, yo soy número 8 en Billboard. ¿Y qué es eso?
And it was interesting how she had this relationship with the people that called the program and was able to communicate with them and explain where she was coming from and clearly understood by the callers. So her Dominicanness, I think, is also reflected in her ability to communicate with the Dominican people that, yes, require an understanding of their views and their symbolism and how they do things. And she has that. She has that. It is very clear. Dominican people, for everything that I have seen here in the U.S., have embraced Cardi B as one of them. And you speak with a young, and she has an enormous number of followers in the Dominican Republic. She was nominated for El Soberano.
Soberano 2018.
Which is similar to the Oscar. She tweeted how proud she was and how wonderful it was that she was nominated for such an important prize award in the Dominican Republic for the Dominican people. She did not win, but what was interesting to me is that they asked her. She did not attend the ceremony, and she presented her excuse. They gave her the opportunity to video her excuse.
Estoy muy triste que no puedo estar allá en los premios, pero tú sabes, hay que trabajar para hacer cuarto en América.
And she said, well, I'm not there because, I'm making money. I'm working and I'm making money. And they asked her to introduce the winner of the merengue of the year, which is, one of the most important category. So, which indicates to me that the Dominican people have also embraced Cardi B as one of their own, asking her to introduce the winner of that category, merengue of the year, and also nominating her for such an important award. It's just clear, very, very clear. That she has been embraced by them. I mean, you hear in television programs, and she made all the newspapers in the Dominican Republic, and nobody questioned her Dominicanness. No one, no debate, no question. What is interesting to me with this video is that you're gonna find very clearly symbols that are clearly Dominican, very distinct, like the flag, for instance, like men playing domino, that is so much associated with Dominican people. This is what is fascinating about this Cardi B, that her identity, her pride of her ethnicity, her culture, it's intertwined with what she does.